What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with more from the legendary Operation Ivy. And as I've explained a few times, I've been working from the not quite omnibus compilation from 1991, self-titled as Operation Ivy, though most of the Op Ivy catalog is included, which is further to say there's a couple EPs, and I think one or maybe both of them came out after the group broke up in '89, that have some songs which are not included on this. Songs like Plea for Peace and Trouble Bound and Left Behind, and those are good songs too, but ultimately most of their song discography is on this compilation. And yes, this comes from their only full album, Energy 1989, which was released right around the time they were starting to break up, and right actually when they were being offered a major label contract by EMI, which, you know, either they rejected because it just wasn't the right path for a group like this, you know, singing about the themes and muckraking concepts that they were, or maybe just because they were already fracturing, so it's not something they could really take. In any case, this song, Smiling, I think is a cleverly and perceptively written song about the way that back then and right up now, and maybe even more so now because of the social media age that we all live in. I can't speak to that, I'm a middle-aged guy now, but in the late 80s and early 90s, when I was a preteen / teenager, it was very much the case that there are many boys and young men who are driven to seek out female encounters, companionship, but in a more limited sense, indeed, often in like one-night stand type of context, but not necessarily even for the sex itself, and certainly not for a more deep and emotionally fulfilling connection, but merely because there's this peer pressure among boys to demonstrate your prowess or your popularity with the ladies. And so as the song says, because these young men are driven to such encounters out of this peer pressure factor, they end up not even having emotionally fulfilling experiences. And whether or not the sex might be good, their real goal is just to rush back to their peers, running to report to their peers, as the song said, that, hey, I've made it, you know, I've been with this girl and this girl. And so they end up having these boring emotional lives that aren't actually giving them a sense of intimacy in a fuller context. And so they're only smiling when their friends are watching, which is like the main refrain of the song. So I think it's very cleverly written. Again, I knew a lot of guys who were sort of like that, who, you know, when there were a lot of guys in the room at parties and so on, they would talk this big game about, oh, you know, I'm a player, I'm a ladies' man, and so on. And then, like, in simpler moments and maybe among closer friends, they'd say like, oh, you know, I actually was really hurt by the fact that, you know, nothing ever developed out of it. It was just like this one night thing. But they wouldn't say that in larger social circles, because the idea is that, like, well, you're not supposed to care about emotional issues. You're just supposed to be looking to hook up. And beyond that, you know, it's not supposed to matter to you, when in fact they're actually like suffering inside. But because of this masculine cultural paradigm, they weren't able to really exist or take a more integrity-based approach to actually, you know, dating and sex and emotional connection. So again, it's for young boys or young men as they were at the time. I think it's very perceptively written, and as I said, it's probably not any different now. It's probably even more the case when an era of social media, when, you know, people post memes and things like that that might relate to their love life, so to speak. In any case, I'll stop talking. I've talked already probably 3 or 4 times as long as the song. This is Operation Ivy. It's Smiling. It's originally from their Energy album 1989, though we hear it here as part of the Operation Ivy compilation 1991.
Smile, friends, watching you. At the party, at the festival, at the bar. You're looking away because your floor's at the bar. When you find out it doesn't mean anything. Wonder why your life is so boring. Mine is a terrible thing to waste. You ain't finding ways that just the same thing. Time was a waste, time was out of you a loss. Take ready and special, but you ain't gonna talk. Smiling when your friends are watching. Smile when your friends are watching. You smiling when your friends are watching. Smiling when your friends are watching.
talking between the songs. So yeah, I think those maracas at the end. But as I said, it's like this song that has this, light skankin' type of sonic atmosphere. Love the ska style guitar. And I like that section where it's like they're at a party, there's all these people going crazy, and, again, probably like, oh, I'm having a great time, and yeah, like, my love life's great, don't worry about it. And then inside they're like secretly, upset or brokenhearted, or feeling like, they're not deriving any actual emotional fulfillment from it all. So yeah, I think it's a very cleverly written song in which the light sonics mask the like heavier emotional character of the lyrics. And again, it's a concept that, in the modern world at least, I suppose, the farther back you go, when social circles were smaller and, public schools were not what they've become, at least since the 20th century, if not a little bit earlier, it's something that may not translate, but certainly from the time they wrote this right up into the present, I think it's probably, and quite unfortunately, perpetually relevant. And yes, I enjoy, again, Jesse's voice. I know it's not harmonious or, sonorous in the way someone with, perfect pitch and like a more, let's say, elegant style of singing, but I think it's the perfect vehicle for the incisive and in some cases caustic lyrics that he wrote. So yeah, shout out to Jesse in particular. Let me know what you think of this one. I will see you next time. Peace.